There we go. So welcome everybody. It's good to see you. It's been a month. I don't know about you, but certainly I'm feeling it. Although I am definitely appreciating the fall weather. Anybody have anything to add to the agenda? Okay. Minutes are still on hold. John is almost there with his software, but we will be sure to have them by the end of the year. If at any point you want recordings from the previous month, those are available if you would like them.
I'm ready. Anytime you can send them.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Then expect a whole barrage here coming up there, John.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
All right. So for devotions, Sunday we moved St. Luke from today to Sunday for the sake of having a healing service, which means we didn't read the gospel for the day. And so I want us to read the gospel that was shared in most of our sibling congregations. Then Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. He said, in a certain city, there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people. In that city, there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, grant me justice against my opponent. For a while, he refused, but later he said to himself, though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not wear me out by continually coming. And Jesus said, listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the human one comes, will he find faith on earth? There's lots of reasons why I chose not to do this parable. Luke gets into parables that become pretty troublesome, in this case, making God out to be an unjust judge. But it is important for us to remember, I always love to pair this text with Paul's command to pray without ceasing, this idea that Luther talks about why we pray at all, and it's for us to be participatory in God's work in the world. So just a good reminder for us in our daily lives to sort of instill some prayer in what we do. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we give you thanks for the day that is now over. We give you thanks for the work that has been done. And we give you thanks for the call to be your people with work yet to do. Bless our time together. Bless this meeting. Be among us. Be in our conversation. That our eyes, that our vision, that our hearts might be drawn to you, focused on your call, that we might be about the ministry you call us to be about in this place. All this we ask in the name of the one who walks the way with us, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
So you got my report. There's not a lot to highlight from it. Except to say that I do have the day right after our next council meeting, I'll be out for 2 days for continuing education. It's in Philadelphia, but it's all day. So that's there. There is conversations not just with Grace Winmore, but with Ches Pres and St. Paul's at least, about doing some activities and events together moving forward. And that's sort of just very beginning those conversations. It's just sort of at that point post-pandemic where at least these three congregations have called pastors that are now starting to figure out what it looks like going forward. We need to, as I said last month, we need to continue thinking about filling council positions. It always takes time to gather those names. We need at least 2. We can have up to 5, I think, more people. So that is something for us to think about. And those names we really should be getting together. Monday school is going well. Bible study is going well. Both of those will take a hiatus at the end of October and beginning of November as a little break. That also sort of just coincides with some timing with other things that I have scheduled or we have scheduled. Trivia night is coming up. If you haven't bought your tickets, buy your tickets. If you know anyone else that you want to have buy tickets, have them buy their tickets. We have plenty of room left. We do have some folks buying up tables, which is more than we had last year at this time. But definitely, folks, we have room for that. Yes, John.
Please refresh my memory and tell me how I buy a ticket.
So you can buy a ticket online. You can buy a ticket by talking to Denise in the church office. You can talk to me on Sunday and hand me a $20 bill.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we can give you money on Sunday.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Mhm. You can give money on Sunday. You also, if you go to the donate page, christascension.org/donate, there's a tile there specifically for trivia tickets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I
What does
we
a
can
tile mean?
donate
What's
if
a?
you get tickets.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, John. Go on.
No, you go ahead. You were talking. Go ahead.
Okay. We could just donate tickets if you want to do that. Would there be people who could use tickets?
I mean, potentially. I think it's a little different than when we did the spaghetti dinner.
Right.
But yes, I would say that you can go ahead and buy tickets. Yeah, I mean, there is no reason to not donate money to church, right? I mean, it's a fundraiser.
Right.
You are more than welcome to give as much money as you want and take, therefore, as many tickets as you want. I think is sort of the answer to your question. To answer your question, John, the donate page has, you may need to call Denise. I'm not sure it'll necessarily convert well into visual impairment, but we have tiles listed for different funds, if you will. So there's one for tuition, there's one for regular donating, there's one for building, there's one for like worship materials, and there's one for trivia.
Right.
And it just is a way that when you click on it, then what comes through on our end is it says John Luttenberger gave $20 to trivia.
But it's a graphical thing, right?
It's a graphical thing, yes.
It's a picture.
Yes.
Or sort of, yeah.
Well,
and it's not part of the
picture, but
drop down list.
No, it's a clickable menu.
I'll call Denise.
Probably easier for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Visitation, story time for preschool. Preschool is as full as preschool can be until we get new teachers. So we are maxed out on teachers. Technically a little over, but that's okay. But we really can't take any more students until we get another teacher, and BA has stuff out everywhere, and it's just finding someone, which unfortunately is showing up to be the problem in early childhood education right now, is that there just is not teachers, and no one is quite sure why. Although we know of several teachers that during the pandemic just went into private nannying, which definitely always pays better and is often under the table. So we can't offer that. So we're working on it, but at least for now, students are paying for teachers. So that is a positive. Cleanup day happened. That was good. Walls and framing are going up for the shed barn. So that should be done here. We hope very quickly. Walls and framing is going up. Roof still needs to be done. So like, there's still no roof on it, but there are walls. So we're getting somewhere. Pledge cards were sent out. We had Pledge Sunday last week. A quick early divvying and counting of those numbers from Denise says that we're about $30,000 short of what was listed as the pledge last year. However, we have 5 outstanding pledges that have pledged in the past, which adds up to over that amount of money. So those are usually pretty regular givers. And so usually sort of this, we just had Pledge Sunday. It usually takes a little bit for some of these to trickle in. So we wait a couple weeks, and then Denise usually reaches out and says, can we count on you? And so there's at least 5 households that have pledged regularly in the past who have not turned in pledges. Of those, we definitely make up the difference. So we can breathe easy. It just takes a minute to get there. Looks like you might be one of them, Donna.
I scanned it in and sent it to Denise because I didn't think I was gonna be at church.
Oh, then she has it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then she has it. So so we are looking to at least be making, to at least have pledged what we had pledged last year.
Okay.
Potentially a little bit more, depending on what comes in with these last 5 or 6 that are outstanding. But certainly we are okay. What this does mean in the next month or so, Barbara, you and I will have a lovely conversation to talk about making a budget, which is not as scary as it sounds, because Denise does a worksheet and then I sort of run through and put in some sketched out numbers, and then we say, does this look reasonable? And then council says, to the best of our ability, this is reasonable. And then we get slapped with $15,000 for heat. It's just how church budgets work. But so that is upcoming, and we should be able to have that budget done by the end of the year. The Inclusive Communities Committee for the Synod, the work that I've been doing there, did have our synodical event last weekend. It was very good, very well attended. And Pastor Ashheimer and I still need to touch base on what exactly Advent midweek will look like. We are on the books for doing it, but not, we just haven't had a chance to sit down. It's been a busy couple of weeks for most people that have been getting into the real drive of the fall. Are there any questions on my report?
Yes. I'm sorry. I want to go back to the trivia night again one more time.
Yes.
Do we have plans to sell the raffle, the tickets for the raffle ahead of time, or only at the event? Or how's that going to work?
Well, so the prizes are, once we have all the prizes in, we will figure out and make sure we have enough for all of the prizes that need to accompany trivia itself, and the remainders will go to a raffle. In which case, yes, that raffle will be sold in advance.
Okay, thanks. Because some people might not be able to. I mean, we hope everybody will come, but if someone can't come, they can still, buy some raffle tickets or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Pastor, could you tell us about the continuing ed that you did?
Sure. So the Shape of Leadership is something that I've now been doing. This is the second round. So it's 4 times a year, folks get together by invitation to talk about gifts of leadership. It's very amorphous. It's very much a retreat-based system. So we've done things like Strength Finders. We've done things like the Enneagram. We've done things around improvisation. We've done things around adaptive leadership styles. This last time we were doing some work around sort of skills in group settings. But basically what it is doing is it is taking what is available, recognizing the ways that an individual, this is probably the best way to explain it. It is an opportunity in a group, a small group of leaders to recognize the ways that I, as an individual, interact with the world, whether that's by Enneagram or there's a couple of evaluative tests that we took that helps me recognize how I interact with the world, but also how others interact with the world so that we can figure out how we all work together to move forward with that in productive ways. So that was the shape of leadership. That was the third of 4 of what is actually the second round of shape. So that there was shape 1 and shape 2. And actually this is the pilot program for shape 2 that I was invited to be a part of. So, so that was that. Unfortunately, I had to leave that early. That's usually a 3-day retreat. It's at Crossroads Camp in New Jersey, which is a great camp. I had to leave that early because the seminary didn't consult with me when they scheduled their lead pastor training. So lead pastor training is a training that was around a decade or more ago, funded by a Lilly grant. That funding ran out, then the pandemic happened. Anyway, the seminary started it back up again. And it's by invitation of Region 7 and 8 bishops. So the only way you get in the program is the bishop sort of taps you and says, you have the qualities for this. What it is it's another form of leadership taught very differently. So it was much more lecture-based with sort of cohort conversations. Some of it is more applicable than others. This most recent one was a little around pastoral identity, but also around large church work, which is not something that I'm obviously doing. But conversations around making position descriptions, which we don't have at Christ Ascension, and how do we do evaluations of personnel and all those sorts of things, which we don't do at Christ Ascension. We never have since I've been here. But no matter the size, is at least something to be helpful, certainly now as we're talking about staffing going forward. So that one is by invitation of the bishop, so that the bishop says, whether you're in a large congregation or a small congregation, I see sort of these gifts of leadership, and I think, you know, you'd benefit from this. That meets 6 times throughout the year. So what that does is that meets, it met in October and it will meet in May for 3 days, and then it meets 4 times for only an overnight. And it sort of goes back and forth between Gettysburg and Philadelphia. So I was in Gettysburg last time. It'll be in Philadelphia in November. It'll be in Gettysburg then in January. Back and forth, each time with something different. So that this time it was pastoral identity. Next time it's spirituality. The time after that, it's programming, something. Self-care, all these sorts of things to sort of hone leadership skills and abilities. And that's definitely one of those ones that when the bishop invites you, you say, yes, bishop, I will go.
Is this just for clergy or does this include just for clergy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So the shape of leadership is a little bit broader in that it's an ecumenical thing. So there's 12 of us in the group. So there's 2 Episcopalians, 2 Moravians, and the rest of us are Lutherans, because they drew from a bunch of previous programs of shape for this sort of pilot program. That's open to sort of rostered ministers, so pastors, deacons, but senior pastor training is specifically pastors. Yep. Okay. And that one is 30 individuals from Region 7 and 8. So that's sort of the Northeast Mid-Atlantic area. Okay. Yes, John.
There was an item in your report. There was one line item that said piano for Kimes Hall. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? That's
in the agenda, not in my report.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
We'll get to it. Yep. All right. Finances.
Okay. The things that Denise wanted to note was there was $6,595 for fence relocation, $15,000 $400 for the garage project. And that's the shed, right? The garage
Yes.
project is the
Mhm.
shed, it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
$335 for a maintenance contract for the split units in the preschool. $238.18 for a dehumidifier for the parsonage, and $550 transferred to cover the payroll expense, which seems better than previous months, I think.
It is definitely better than previous months. What I can say is, of all those numbers, the fence relocation and the garage project were covered by donated funds. So the 335 for the split units was just maintenance for the HVAC in the preschool. They were having some issues with humidity more than anything else, which they have gotten worked out. There was a leak outside in some of the hosing from the unit into the building. And then the dehumidifier for the parsonage was because there was some gutter issues. And so there was a lot of drainage directly into the basement, which was then very humid and wet, frankly, just plain old wet. So that single dehumidifier is for the whole basement, which is why it's a bigger unit. Yeah. But yes, that is definitely a better number for payroll.
So I had a question about the split units in the preschool. When you sent the heating letter out, and maybe you discussed this last month when I wasn't at the meeting because I was working, but
Yeah.
you said you don't have to run the furnace for that. What does it run off of?
So the splits are wall-mounted HVAC systems, which means they both do air conditioning and cooling, and heat. So that like in a home, there's an exterior standalone blower that blows into the building through those HVAC units. It does both air conditioning and heat. The reason being, there's like 2 windows in the whole basement, so that they always have had those to allow for climate control in there, because you can't just open a window. So they've had those, and because it's both heating and air conditioning, they really don't need to run the furnace. And honestly, as we all know, HVAC's a lot cheaper than running oil, like not gas, oil. So that they really don't need it. So that the problem is, when we run the furnace, we don't have zoning for the furnace. The best we have for zoning for the furnace is that we can turn the sanctuary on and off, and we can turn Kimes Hall on and off, but we can't otherwise zone it. So we can't say just put it upstairs, or just put it downstairs, or just put it in this room, so that when we turn it on, it runs through the whole building. And basically, there's no need for it to run 6 days a week in Kimes Hall, because the preschool areas are covered by the HVAC system.
So that's electrical? Is that the HVAC's
Yes.
electrical?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I probably am missing something here too, but I saw that the year-to-date budget for the rental income was 32,400, and we've taken in 18,939. Was the parsonage not rented for a while, or is that?
Let me look. So it started. They moved in March. And first month's rent goes to security deposit. Yeah, those numbers are right. It's just, yes, there was some period there. How long were they out? They were out for a while. The problem is, I also was out at the beginning of the year because I didn't have had a broken ankle.
Wasn't it about 2 months, maybe?
I was gonna say, it was 2 or 3 months that it was vacant at the beginning of the year, and then
Right.
once they started paying, some of that had to go into escrow for security deposit, et cetera, et cetera. So that would make sense.
And the
We
other
were-
thing,
We were very ambitious when we wrote the budget.
the other thing I noticed, that maybe it doesn't correlate, but there was $62,422.99 memorial gifts, and repairs and maintenance was $60,921, which almost equaled. Did that have something to do with each other? Or was it just a coincidence that they sort of equal out?
That is, yes, that is where I do believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that is where Denise puts the money that is given with a specific cause. So in the case of people that are giving specifically to the barn or specifically whatever, that's where that money goes. Again, don't quote me on that, but yes, I believe that's how that is.
It makes sense. I saw that they were almost equal, so I thought that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got.
Yeah. Yes, John.
I have a question about the parsonage itself.
Yes.
Are the shutters, have the shutters been installed?
That's a good question. I'll be honest, I haven't
Oh.
looked at the parsonage in a good long while.
Yeah.
I kind of just don't think about it because there's a privacy fence around it, so I just don't even, not that you
Yeah.
can't see it, it pops up above it, but I just don't think about it. I should check. I know
just
that
wonder, 'cause it might be good
I
to
know that
have
some
them.
of the other, I know that some of the other projects we talked about, decking and stuff, that has been done, so. Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking it might be a good thing for them to have the shutters in there during the winter, but if they're not there, then they'll get them when they get them.
Yeah. No, I think you have a good point there. All right. Thank you, Barbara. So, yes. Oh, so old business. One that I brought up last time is we do need to be talking about council nominations. As I said, we need at least 2. That's provided that Donna and John are willing to run again. If they're not, then we need at least 4. So we need to be talking. So we need to be talking to folks about their willingness to serve on council. Because of the timing of this and the fact that we're effectively electing 2 years worth of council members, there is a potential for some folks to serve only 2 years rather than 3 years. So we need 2 people to serve 2 years. And depending what Donna and John say, we need 2 people to serve 3 years. So folks that want a slightly shorter term could have that. So that's sometimes a bribe to get people involved. So that's just something that we need to be aware of, and certainly probably by next month, folks should come with some suggestions of folks to ask, or ask anyway, because frankly, you can't have too many people for elections, because if all you do is ask the number of people you have, that's not really elections, that's just invitations. So that's something for us to keep in mind. Worship check-in. So I put this on and then promptly got a text message about potential exposure in worship on Sunday. The risk of the exposure is relatively low. Folks were wearing masks, windows were opened, and frankly, our congregation is vaccinated out the wazoo, in addition to distancing from most of service. That being said, it's not 0. So anyone who was in church on Sunday should monitor if they have symptoms. If you do have symptoms, if you're worried, should test. If you're worried about anything, call your PCP. Yeah, So, I mean, this is one of those things that is a reality of the world today. So, regardless of how many mitigation efforts we take, there's always a risk. So, again, this particular exposure I think is relatively low as far as exposure to the rest of the congregation, but it's not zero. So, just folks that were in church on Sunday should be aware of that. New business, we've been requested to consider allocating some amount of money for a new piano in Kimes Hall. There are multiple reasons for this. One, the piano that exists there isn't very good. It also is at the point where it cannot be tuned anymore. It's as tightly wound as it's going to get, and that is out of tune. So there's really not much we can do to fix it. It's pretty, but it doesn't move well and it doesn't sound good. So we really need to discount having that as an option. In addition to that, because of our move into Kimes Hall, we need some form of support for music. We have some folks, Catherine and Charlotte graciously, who have been keeping their eyes out. Specifically, everybody's invited to keep their eyes out for pianos that are out there. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, there are lots of options to get new to us pianos. Ideally free to us as well, but maybe not. So the request is, is council okay with spending some money on an instrument for Kimes Hall? And if so, what's our cap? Catherine,
Could
yes, please.
Could I suggest we not discuss money at this time? Catherine and I were out at a warehouse and of good quality pianos. And so we're pursuing something that looked interesting to us. And while we didn't see the pianos that we wanted to, the man assured us that they come in, he just doesn't know when they're going to. And we didn't really get into any price. We were just looking at what was available or what might be available. But there's one that we're really interested in finding more out about. And then we will discuss cost of it, price, etc. So I'd rather not I'd just rather put money on the table, just table any discussion about that for the time being.
Works for me. I put it on there because Catherine asked me to put it on. So it sounds like there's been even more news since then. So that's good.
This morning.
All right.
This morning.
So we will table conversations about the piano for Kimes Hall until we figure out what's going on with that. But do expect there's a potential that council is going to have a pretty quick turnaround meeting at some point. But just something for us to keep in mind. Is there any other?
Can I ask what warehouse you were at?
It was
where
in Ivyland. And it's just a warehouse for evidently good quality pianos, but they're just being stored there. And
it wasn't Cunningham Piano or no.
We have been to Cunningham Piano and we looked at and we had a very good conversation with their salesperson there. That was a new piano that we were interested in. Mm-hmm. This is different. So we're just pursuing a lot of avenues. Catherine is also in conversation with somebody who has pianos that they no longer have a real need for. So we're exploring several avenues to see which one is best for the congregation at what we would consider a reasonable expenditure.
Well, and depending what you find, I'm going to throw it out there. I am always happy to sign off on a tax contribution gift in kind amount. Some folks prefer that than cash in hand. It sometimes works out better. So I'm throwing it out there. I have signed those letters. I am happy to sign more.
Catherine and I were discussing a whole bunch of things like negotiation.
Yep. So
So it's
In which
more
case,
than
I'm happy. In which case, I'm happy to show up in a collar because sometimes that works too. So yeah, but that sounds good.
Yeah.
And we will wait to hear more about that then. So that takes new business off the table. Yes, John.
Yeah, I take it that if we don't have a new piano by the 6th of November, we can sort of make do with one we have for a little while, right?
Yes,
Or not?
we will.
Okay.
There will be an instrument of some sort. It might just be a little hunky tonky there for a couple of weeks.
Oh, you missed my laugh there. Okay.
So state of the congregation, how are folks doing? How are folks feeling? How's life?
I think things are moving along, but it seems to me that church attendance, from what I'm picking up in some churches, we are not unusual in in-person worship, that there are a number of congregations over a number of denominations who are facing the same challenge.
That was a big part of what I talked to when I talked to Pastor Wilkinson and Father Eric. I forget his last name. They both were saying the exact same thing, that they were experiencing
Hungerford, I think.
Yes. Thank you. That they were experiencing the same thing. Folks were participating, like at Christ Ascension, participating online, viewing online, but that doesn't feel the same for those who are in person. And so it's figuring out how to balance that, considering there's huge numbers of people that across the board, not huge numbers of people at Christ Ascension, that may not come back in person, but are still participating in sort of these new and different ways. So what does that mean? No, but we are definitely not alone.
Yeah.
How are things in the Brown household right now, Drew?
Just peachy. Might as well just put the hospital sign out on the front porch.
I mean, at least you're feeling better from previous issues.
Right. Yeah, I'm getting there. Getting a lot of grief too.
Wow.
Yeah. So the
Okay.
timing here has been good, first one, then another.
Yeah.
How's Mary doing, Drew?
Well, she's,
If you care to say.
She's traveling a lot, and that's not a safe situation. But she was down in Houston this weekend, and that's a Republican state. Excuse me for talking politics, but apparently nobody was wearing a mask in the state of Texas that she saw. So that's not cool.
Yeah.
Of course, I went to my high school reunion over the weekend, and I was the only one wearing a mask. I didn't feel too comfortable about that either. Not being in touch with what's going on online with our services, except that I see the camera light go red and green now and then during the service. I'm a little bit dismayed by our attendance in the sanctuary. I think the choir is working hard and making some pretty good music. And I'm sure that listening to it over the internet is not nearly as good as being in the sanctuary. Not that that's a sales pitch, but unless of course, Pastor, who the people are online, I hope, because we're going to have to go.
I generally know numbers. Unless folks comment, it's an anonymous participation.
Yikes, because we're going to need those folks for counsel.
Wow.
A couple of them anyway.
Yes.
I'm one of the people online
Yeah.
most of the time, and I do not attend any large gatherings. I skipped my high school reunion last Saturday. I don't go out to eat in restaurants. You know, I go to work, and when I go places, I go for long bike rides, which I did last weekend, you know, but I don't go into groups where there's people. So that's why I'm not coming to church. I'm
Yeah.
being very careful.
And you're not the
Because
only one that I've talked to. Yeah.
you know, my family's still getting COVID. One's got it right now, so it's not gone. It's
Yeah.
not gone at all. And vaccines will help you not get as worse, but you still get it. And you never know who's going to get the long COVID, and you don't know how it's going to affect you.
Right.
Yeah. It's still there.
It is.
Last thoughts from the folks. All right, then our next meeting is the 15th of November. Yep, 1/8/15. So that'll be the 15th of November. 7 o'clock here on Zoom. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah, 7 p.m. is the new start time, right?
Correct.
Ongoing.
Yep. Yeah. All right.
Are we going to have a December meeting, which would come on the 20th?
So usually what happens is at the December meeting, we kind of figure out whether we need a December meeting, and if so, whether we want to sort of meet, because like if the budget's done by the next council meeting, that's really the last of the business that has to be done for the year. If it's done by then. If it's not done by then sometimes we're like, well, maybe like the first, second week of the month, we'll just have a quickie, just sort of approve the budget meeting. But no, we don't usually have anything major for the December meeting. It's a busy month for everybody, especially when Christmas falls on a weekend, which somehow it makes for a longer Advent, but not really. And so it just throws everything off. So we usually decide that at the November meeting.
Okay.
Yes, John.
Charlotte's thinking about the choir rehearsal that night that we would have.
Yes. Well, I mean, not to mention the rest of it being the week of Christmas. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because it would be the 20th.
Yeah.
Tuesday, the 20th, and then Saturday, the 24th.
Yep. And Sunday the 25th. And yep, I gotcha.
Yep.
I gotcha. All right, folks, let us pray. Holy One, we thank you for this meeting, for conversations, for laughter, for opportunities to share and grow, opportunities to vision and dream, but most especially opportunities to live into being your people, called to serve in this place. Bless us now, bless the plans we have made, bless the work we have to do, and guide us, accompany us, rest with us this night, that we might rest assured this night that your love is spread over us. All this we ask in the name of the one who taught us to pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
All right,
7:45.
Sounds good. Thank you all so much for your time tonight. And we will, as I said, we will be together on the 15th of November at least, potentially with a budget. So we will see you all then and Sunday if not before.